All right, there you go.
So first we need to do a opening prayer, and then someone needs to share a spiritual thought. So do whatever. I can do the spiritual thought if someone wants to do the opening prayer.
I can say the prayer.
Awesome.
Heavenly Father, we are so very grateful for this day and grateful for the opportunity to meet together and to discuss this case. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to be attending BYU Idaho and to further our knowledge. We ask that we can understand and gain a better understanding about what we can do in future business situations. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Okay. And thought that I'll share. Scripture. Mosiah chapter 2. The last verse 42. But it says, and moreover, I would desire that you should consider on the blessed and happy state of those that keep the commandments of God. For behold, they are blessed in all things, both temporal and spiritual. Faithful to the end, they are received into heaven, that thereby they may dwell with God in a state of never-ending happiness. Oh, remember that these things are true, for the Lord God hath spoken it. There's a few reasons why I really like that scripture. First of all, talks about how we're blessed in both things, temporal and spiritual. And I think this actually applies a lot with school and with our lives and with our careers. Think of keeping the commandments. You think of spiritual blessings, being spiritually blessed. But in here it says you're blessed temporally and spiritually. And so those temporal things have to do with, like the worldly things, like our career, wise, different things like that. And so we have that promise that as we keep the commandments, we'll always be blessed in those things. And the other part is that we'll always be happy. It seems like, I've been at BYU Idaho. Every business class I've had, we've read a story about someone, like the Enron guy. I always hear about him. The insider trading, who got mixed up with some bad stuff, or people who start focusing too much on money, happy in their lives because they're not focusing on the things that matter most. And this is just a promise that you'll be happy as long as you focus on keeping the commandments. You'll always be happy. And so those are scriptures. I say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
So our discussion center on understanding success or making crucial decisions. Today we are trying to account for failure. Discussion, quickly reconstruct the key elements of the CAPE financial business model. So the first part of it is the customer value.
I think one thing with that that it stated in there was survey or whatever, people felt like they couldn't find all the information in one spot, and then also that they trusted their family and friends the most, and so that was one of the things that he was offering as a value to his customers, that it's all inclusive and that it's that they can trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something else that stuck out to me, which it didn't really end up working out, but it was during the time where social media was kind of like taking an upturn, like was becoming really popular, and mix in with that. in that way, what other people are doing with their investing, see what they're investing in, and I don't know. You could also do that with their friends, which, like you mentioned, now is who they trust the most with financial advice.
Yeah, he also mentioned that being able the transparency and being able to see more of what was going on with the trades and things like that. That was the other thing I had.
Is there anything else that you guys noticed?
I don't think so.
Yeah, those were the couple things I had written down.
Next one is, did it go according to the market plan?
No, not really. I don't think so. Especially with like how I was saying with the social media thing. Nobody really used it like that. Nobody wanted to like publish what they're doing with their finances or with their investing. Nobody wanted to share that. So that didn't really go according to plan.
But I think it was in like the conclusion of the case study, but it said how they figured that out after they spent so much time and money that the 40 to 50-year-olds want to keep that secret. How it would have been a lot more better if they could have figured that out before they wasted all that stuff.
Yeah, he mentioned somewhere in there, it was towards the end, I think it might have been in the same kind of area that his focus was more on the 40 to 50-year-old men, whereas that other website that was doing better focused more on women and a little bit younger, and I think they did more social media. They used that more.
And I think it was just hard because he was kind of trying to, I figure his business is in the new market category, and so he doesn't have much to go off of since he is kind of one of the first to enter into that market. And so I think that was kind of tough for him too. It didn't really help very much that it was one of a kind type of products.
So don't even, maybe this is something we talk about later on. Yeah, it's the next one. I feel like with the research he did, like, yes, there was a need for all of that. Like, there's a need for advice, for investing, because people didn't feel like they had sufficient what to invest in and stuff like that. But even though there's a need, I don't feel like people with that need, enough people like in that market that they were targeting, that it would bring in enough revenue. That's something that I kind of thought before. And that obviously showed later on.
Yeah. And I think with being social media being so new and unfamiliar, I mean, when you're dealing with people's retirement and all their investments, I mean, with it being so new, I feel like it'd be like if it was me back then, I'd feel pretty hesitant for people to have that information and it being out there type of thing. And so combining those two technologies, I guess, could be a little, I don't know, uncertain.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a way to like turn off so that you could use the social media and share advice and things without them actually seeing your actual dollar amounts and your actual investments.
Yeah.
If there was some kind of a wall in between the two, that might have helped.
Definitely. Going to the cash flow formula. I think so. This I feel like this case study was kind of that evaluation, and he was kind of waiting kind of his performance. And I think that's the thing that he caught himself doing, was how he knew that that amount of funding that he had received wasn't going to be enough, and that it wasn't going to help build the size of product that was going to create that cash flow and create that amount of revenue that he was hoping for. So I think he kind of cut the corners there, and I think that's what kind of doomed him from the beginning, was just getting too excited about the available money and not holding off.
Yeah. He didn't have any patience. And I think he went and spent the money on the wrong thing first. He should have done some more research before he sunk all the money into developing it.
Yeah.
Because then he wouldn't have had to go back and backtrack some of that work that they had done.
I think he mentioned that's kind of what Mint was able to do really well, is that they came out with the basic user-friendly version and then built upon that, instead of coming out with everything and then losing all their money and not being able to listen to the input from their users and be able to pivot and change to a more user-friendly way.
Yeah.
So, did we discuss all those points already? Okay. So now, let's see, what does everybody think about them either being doomed from the beginning or being promising?
I guess I didn't feel like he was totally doomed from the beginning, because the idea and the concept were good. I think because he went in too far before he started to make changes. And I think if he would have done some more research first, he might have had better outcome.
Yeah, I agree. He, like, with the research, had he figured out earlier on that his target market would have been like the younger middle-aged people who are investing for retirement, like in 401ks and stuff like that, I feel like he would have been a lot better off from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it would have been great with the people just starting to invest that had smaller portfolios maybe, that were looking for more advice.
But I am with you, though. I do think it was really promising. But I think the lack of, I don't know, like you said, like preparation, and also, I don't know, it felt like he did everything really rushed. He didn't really take his time.
Yeah.
Like there's just a few different things that kept him from being successful.
And unfortunately, timing was against his side, because in 2008, when he was ready to look at selling, maybe it would have been a good time, except that's when the recession hit and all the financial companies weren't doing anything and they weren't going to buy it. And I think that is where he was doomed right there. I don't think there was a coming back from that.
He was also at one point about to strike some sort of deal with one of them, not selling it. That would have helped. He was saying that would have helped out a lot. And like you said, that's right when the economy crashed.
Yeah.
And so they're making a deal with him and working with him just because they're all struggling as it was. So.
I agree. I mean, I think you guys summed it up pretty well. That the idea was there, that it was promising, it was new, it was fresh, but then just the timing, and then also kind of his model and market that he was going for wasn't completely sound.
Okay. discuss Stephen's approach to the opportunity, try to understand what, if anything, Stephen could have done differently, reached a better outcome. It also says on page 3, Stephen says, in retrospect, I'm not sure that those early focus groups were very helpful. They validated our high-level concepts, seek feedback on a specific product. I've learned that focus groups for technical products can be unreliable because people can't always say, well, they can actually see it and play around with it. We would have learned more by building a lightweight product and watching how investors used it. We also didn't get much sense of user segmentation from our early focus groups. There are important but subtle differences between active investors who track their portfolios daily and maintain investors who pay less attention.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when he talked about the early focus groups because they didn't sound like early focus groups. They sounded like, like about his product. Because he wasn't really asking questions about, if they'd use it or what they were looking for. He was asking more about stuff that would have come later, about the actual investment themselves. So I thought that I agreed with him. It wasn't very helpful, I don't think.
Something I feel like he could have done, like they did that, was it the TechCrunch? Is that what it was called? In that little competition. That's when they like first launched their, so they kind of had deadlines to work with there. I feel like they should have just come out with files of the website and let people actually use it more and figure it out, take things slower instead of doing it at the
Yeah.
Was it this week's reading? I don't remember if it was even for this class, but it was talking about the right way to go about to receive the feedback instead of just putting the product out there. Or yeah, is the minimum viable product. It was teaching us more about that and how when you're looking for feedback, it's better to approach it like, this is my idea, this is what I'm working with, what suggestions do you have, instead of just throwing your product out there saying, this is it, do you like it? Because it's harder for them to give the feedback like, oh, I would change this and this, don't do this. But when you're just talking about it, like building the idea still, they're able to suggest better things. And so with his focus groups, I think he could have done a better job being able to receive more better, I guess, constructive feedback.
Yeah.
In the I don't know if you guys read it, but in the prep assignment there was the article about managing risk. I actually felt like that applied a lot to this case study, because one of the bigger risks that'll actually kill an opportunity is like whether people will actually use the product enough for you to be successful. There's problems. So he saying spending his time in focus groups, stuff like that, instead of actually putting the product out there to see if people would use it, it could improve. And so I don't feel like you really managed. Like you didn't take care of the higher priority risks first. He's kind of paying attention to smaller things.
For sure.
Yeah, I think there were a couple times that he could have managed his risks. He made a couple comments about, well, maybe, when he hit one spot, maybe changing it or doing something different at that point, and he didn't feel like he should go farther, but then he went ahead anyway. So I think there were a couple places in there that he could have reassessed and pivoted, and he knew he should have, and he just chose not to.
So, make a list of ways that Stephen's approach is different from the Rent the Runway. Mint. How do we know which assumption to test first? Is building the data layer approach? What would you have done first? You guys notice we're similar between the other case studies in this one and his approach?
There's a lot of differences. Yeah.
Maybe I'll pull up my other.
I think one of the, well, I guess I don't know if it's about his approach, but I think it's just the idea as a whole. I mean, so Rent the Runway and Dropbox, they both had new ideas, but what they were doing has been around. So Rent the Runway, everyone's been wearing clothes forever, and then Dropbox, everybody's been on a computer saving files forever. And so although for both of those to work around an old idea was kind of more secure than what Stephen's approach was to take a new thing, which was social media, and tying it into an old thing. So I think it's just the whole idea as a whole, I think was pretty different. If that made any sense, that was just a bunch of rambling, sorry.
No, it makes sense. I think. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that now social media is a lot more common too, and so I think the idea of sharing that much information was still not as, especially to the 40 and 50-year-olds at that time, it still wasn't like an everyday thing. So that probably threw people off, because I remember not sharing my every step with people like some people do now on social media, and especially not my money. So that would be a hard concept to teach people that fast.
Yeah. Something I noticed about the Rent the Runway case was that they were very methodical with everything they did. So everything they did, I feel like they did it in the proper order. And they had the finance, they had the right amount of financing for it. You were thinking, people were already wearing clothes. That's something that people always need. Or kind of off the wall idea. There's some big differences between a lot of them.
And I think so. A bonus that I think the Rent the Runway and Dropbox had was Rent the Runway went around to the universities and kind of did their own little get together parties to have people kind of get familiar with the idea, and then Dropbox, they were able to create their product as a whole and then do the beta testing before it went public. And I think that's where something that Stephen did different is that he wanted to be able to be in the tech crunch, and one of the requirements was that there wasn't any beta testing been released, things like that, that it was fresh. And so I think if he would have conservative route instead of wanting to be in the TechCrunch and kind of in the mainstream eyes, if he would have taken the time to do the beta testing and the alpha testing to receive that feedback, tweak it, and then release it publicly. And I think that would have, could have helped, I guess, prevent the excessive money that was spent without the correct information or, I guess, market that he was going for.
Yeah, one other thing I really liked about Rent the Runway was that they went to the designers first and got their input, and that taught them a lot about what they were going to do. They changed their concepts based on that, and I think Stephen could have done the same thing, gone to some of the actual investment, the brokerage houses, talked to some of the companies that did investing, and learned maybe what they would say about it and how their customers would have felt about it. I think he would have had more luck, because even in the end they talk about that even after he sold, some of those companies still talked about it and still talked about what a good idea it would have been if it was done a little bit different. So I think getting some of those other companies would have helped.
Something along with TechCrunch thing, I didn't think that that kind of, I feel like, harmed him too. But something that is a similarity that I noticed between that is like with Dropbox, they use that type of thing. That's how they got their name out there. I actually think that ended up helping.
Sorry.
Well, obviously.
Hold on one sec. I'm not sure who's calling me.
Yeah,
Sorry about
that Dropbox out a ton, and I actually think it did help out these guys as well a lot, but have quite the same effect. Drop out.
Oh, maybe that's what happened. Maybe he. Oh, he says his phone overheated and kicked him off.
His phone did.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should just send an invite and we'll just keep
He's asking
going.
if he can rejoin, but he should be able to.
Um,
I'll send him a. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
yeah, just so I don't know when you dropped out. What I was saying is, if you on the TechCrunch thing, how it in your favor. Something with what happened with Dropbox, they actually like benefited from that a ton. Like that was one of like their biggest moves that they made, because that they got their name out there, and then they ended up getting investors from that too. So I feel like that was like really successful for Dropbox, whereas it wasn't too successful for these guys. Like it did. It got a bunch of people to flood their website, but it didn't end up sticking. So.
So we're looking for main reasons why cake failed. Last step, last question.
Yeah.
So was the failure just beyond Stephen's control?
I don't think so at the beginning, but I think at the end it was.
So you think it was? I don't really understand. So was the failure just beyond Stephen's control? So are we saying that Stephen had the opportunity to prevent it from failing? Is that what the question is saying?
Yeah, I think
Was it
I think
his fault?
he did. I think the first year or so, there were things that he could have done in there that would have changed it, or he could have made changes that would have, or maybe could have prevented the failure. But after that '08 part, I think there's a point in there that it changed, and there was just nothing that was going to save it at that point.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, you think that like at the first there was stuff that he could have done, but then towards the end there was like
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, honestly, because of at the end it was out of his control just because of the recession and stuff. I think that was probably a huge part of it. I don't know. You were kind of cutting out, so I couldn't hear what you said. So you might have said that, but
Yeah.
Is there anything that you guys think that he could have done earlier to prevent failing from the? I guess a lot of people failed no matter what, just because it was so terrible. So probably not.
however, like up at the top, like here. Oh, it's not in here. But like a big point of this study is to teach us. One of the questions in the study guide was like teaching us about how failure can be a good thing. Although like there was a bunch of stuff that he could have done early on, like that we've talked about this whole time, that he could have done better. And at the end of the case study, and at the first, he's sitting there as he's coming up with a new startup business, pondering on the things that he did wrong this first time, so he doesn't make those mistakes again. Yeah, there was a ton of things that like he did do wrong, and like Andrew said, he'll fail, and that's just like reality. So the good thing is he's like taking those things and learning from them, and making like because that's when failure is good, is when you learn from it and you become like successful later on because of it.
I wonder, it'd be interesting if his idea was fully functional and he had a bunch of users and everything had gone according to plan, and then seen it go through the recession to see if the users would just log off and quit using it, and if it would have failed then, or if it could have, I guess, stayed alive during the recession. It'd just be interesting to see. I guess speculate. So what low-cost experiment could Stephen have done to test the assumptions behind the main reason for failure? Well, I think doing those beta testings, I think, could have helped kind of iron out the rough edges. But then again, he wouldn't have been able to enter into the TechCrunch or whatever. But I think it might have prevented some failure early on.
Yeah, I think even if the focus groups would have been more focused on different parts of his idea to see if people wanted that certain thing, or if before he even started working, he could have asked more questions from potential customers. I think he skipped that step.
he could have, something that I just thought of, I think someone already said this, but he could Dropbox full, they like got groups of people and let them try it out, try Dropbox out for a little bit during the beginning to see how they liked it. Could have done something like that, like before TechCrunch. Just come out with a small little thing and got a group of people together, a group of investors to use it and to see how they like it and get their opinions.
Yeah.
Another thing, while he was talking with the firms where he was trying to, so he paired up with the 12 companies or whatever to be able to receive the data from and be all connected to. I feel like talking with them, they would have a pretty good understanding that people that are serious about investing and have strategies and certain ways to be successful. I feel like if he would have maybe spent more time with talking with people in that market, he could have, I guess, seen that his idea might have not been as good as he was thinking. And that's what kind of threw me off, because in the end, I think it was, I don't know who he's talking about, what firm, but it says how their employees would talk about cake on a weekly basis, like bring it up and like, oh yeah, just talk about it. And so I don't know if people that worked at those firms thought it was a good idea, and just the average Joe that does occasional investing thought it was a bad idea. And so maybe just spending more time with, I guess, people that are experienced in that market could have prevented confusion.
I agree.
So any other, I guess, opinions or anything that we need to cover?
I think we've covered it all.
So what numbers doing that study guide, do you guys have a preference in what questions you go over
No, not really.
or cover?
Does everybody have it done this week?
I haven't done mine yet, no.
Okay. If you wanna,
I've written.
sorry,
go
what
ahead.
was that? Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I've already written mine up, but I'm happy to share what I wrote.
I don't mind doing it. I mean, that's what I've been doing this far. So I can do this one, and then maybe next week we can start dividing it up.
Sarah, on yours,
Yeah.
the question was, it's the one where you have to perform calculations and then like have your original exhibit or whatever. You need to do it like in a spreadsheet or however. What did you do for that?
No, I didn't. There was nothing really. I didn't know what to do for that.
There, because
None of the questions have anything to do with financials. So I didn't touch on it very much, if at all. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look real quick. Yeah, I don't think I did any spreadsheet this week.
well, if I'll look at it again, I'll try and figure out something.
Yeah, sorry. I've done them on all the other ones, but I just didn't even know what to do this time.
And then, Andrew, if you need help on any of them or you're struggling to find an answer, let me know and I can get like show you.
It'll be fine.
Sweet.
So, did you guys meet twice last week since there's 2 case studies, or do you only meet on one of them?
I'm at both cases with my guy.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
Okay.
Has he changed your grade? So I know when you do the post discussion poll, it talks about whether or not you met with your group and things like that. And it's like the write-in one. And so when you submit it, it counts it wrong. Has he gone back and fixed those for you guys yet? Or is it still showing up that you have like 10 out of the 20 points?
I'm looking right real quick. He just changed my post discussion poll one.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. Because now I'm showing all my points. And I don't think earlier today I was, so he must have done it today.
Oh, yeah. Mine just shows 8 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago. So it looks like he's grading them right now. Redoing it. So
Yeah.
cool.
All right. So when does it work for you guys to meet on this next case?
Free pretty much every day after like, so I can really meet anytime. Please.
So I don't get off work until like 7:15, and I work down in Rigby. And so maybe like 7:45 or 8 would be perfect for me. But if not, then I can just rush home and hop on.
Oh, 8 o'clock.
For me.
Yeah, 8 works fine for me.
Okay. But yeah, as far as days, it's due Saturday night. Is that when the next one's due?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I think so.
It's awkward to me. Sweet.
Yeah, it's due Saturday.
Saturday.
Do you want to do that Saturday then, or do you want to do it earlier?
Yeah, I'd be down with doing it like earlier in the morning.
Okay, that's fine.
Morning works for me on Saturday.
Like 9, or is that too early for you guys? Are both of you here in Idaho or Mountain Time? Mountain Standard Time?
Yeah, I'm in Boise.
Rexburg. Where are you, Andrew?
Rexburg.
Yeah, I'm good with 9 if that's good with you guys.
Okay. Okay, sweet.
All right.
And
See you
then,
Saturday. Oh.
Sarah, you're the one recording this? Is that right?
Yeah, I'll send you guys the link in just a few minutes.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, awesome.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys Saturday.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.